Alright guys, here is a video review for the 3D printed LUGNUT from Sam's Forge. Sam makes toys on Twitter. I'll put a link to his little Twitter feed right down there in the description. But I finally did it. It's not 100% perfect because I was tweaking some things on my printer. You'll see like there's some, like this was a first layer issue that I can reprint that part. That's one of the beauty of things of 3D printed toys is that, hey, if something messes up, something breaks, and inadvertently screws something up, just fire up the printer and print a new piece. So, but here is LUGNUT. Like I said, this bomb's a little droopy here. But here he is in his vehicle mode. Very cool. And again, one of the things I love about Sam's designs is that all of this is 3D printed. There's no paint or stickers or anything. Every single one of these windows is a tiny little, like 0.2 millimeter thick print. And even this little tiny one up here. That I hand glued each tiny one in place. For pins, I just use sewing pins, just like straight pins that use to like pin up hems for sewing. All of the pin holes are part of the print. Very nicely designed. Sam does some amazing work. And this particular figure, when he was showing it off, is what finally got me to buy a 3D printer back. I had some overtime money back in February. And I was thinking, like, what do I want to spend this on? And I finally got a 3D printer. And the 3D printer I bought, I was looking at a couple different ones. I got the Artillery Genius is the one I use because it's a smaller version of the Sidewinder, which is what he was using to print on. But it's essentially the same machine, just with a smaller build area. And a couple other little improvements that they put on the smaller version. And that's why I ended up going with that one over the Ender 3, because I knew specifically I could print exactly the way he was doing with his cool stuff. But here he is. It's LUGNUT, very cool, and a lot of fun, a lot of work to print. But now that I've got all the files sliced, I can literally just, anytime I want to, just pop in the USB drive and print out another one, or any particular parts that I might need. Size comparison-wise, here he is with original animated LUGNUT, which is actually, I just realized the other day, is actually my not-for-sale test shot, because this one has this lighter gray-green, and what was released was that because he didn't have the guns. So what was released was actually more closer to this greenish teal all over. But I still have this one. But there's a quick size comparison there. Roughly the same size in plane mode. Obviously bigger bombs here. But roughly the same-ish size in plane mode. A little smaller in robot mode, but bulkier overall. And here he is with the Decepticons Unite, I can't remember what, Decepticons Attack, whatever line they had, Rise of the Decepticons, something. They had some line like what they did with some of these things, but another LUGNUT that they did. But yeah, see his wings a little loose. Some of the, like, you can tighten a lot of these joints with floor polish, and I've done that on several of them, but some of them still need a little bit of work. It's kind of a touch and go process, but because it's 3D printing, some people could print the exact same files. I mean, everybody's going to get the exact same files. I've tested them; they work. But depending on your slicer settings, some people might get, and depending on what printer you're using, might get rock solid joints right off the bat. Some might be a little loose. That's just 3D printing, but the design is actually really good. So let's go ahead and transform him. There's actually some engineering that is very similar to his animated toy, and there's some that is drastically different. Now, a couple of parts, all of the swivel hinges, both like bicep, up here at the shoulders, are all kind of friction held into place. Again, why it's important, you can kind of adjust that, tweak it with some floor polish or however you use to thicken joints. I wouldn't recommend super glue if you're going that route, because super glue does a really good job of bonding PLA, if that's what you've printed in, together. So, or if you do it very sparingly and very carefully, and make sure you're moving it until it's completely dry, because super glue will really freeze up some joints. Floor polish really is a fantastic way of doing it on these things. But like I said, the only things that should pop off are these little side pods. They are the only actual official parts forming things. They move onto his back to form kind of a backpack cape shell thing. You'll see when I transform it. If anything else pops off, that's just the nature of 3D printing, although I think I've got it to a point where it won't have to. But so to start off, we'll come right here and we'll just fold the wings up. Like that. And then the arms, you bring them down out of the body like that. And then the wing collapses in. And same under here. Once you get to pull the bicep out and then collapse the wing into the body. And then we'll transform the rest of the arms here in a minute. Go ahead and pop these little side pods off. And then back here, untab the tail from each other, like that. And the tail is actually like each leg. These are his legs, these are his feet. But this foot goes with this thigh part. They actually crisscross over, which is actually really neat under here. So you can see this one over here that has the lower bar under here. So once you untab these, open up this hinge and bring this one down on this little hinge. Open up this and bring this one down. And that frees up the legs here to split out to the side, like this. At which point you bring this down and around like that. And then this piece comes around, lift this up and fold this hinge back in. This piece comes down like this. Get it all the way in there. And then this piece with the tail and the foot here on this hinge, you pop this down so it untabs from up here. It's got a similar tab like this. And then this whole piece rotates out. And then there's a pin through here so it slides up and then finishes rotating down and around like this. And then you rotate this so the foot is facing out. And then again, take this, tab it up into there, and then fold it up, and it clips onto the top of the leg like that. And then you bring the toe up and rotate it around. And then the thigh piece here folds in, and that little tab right there clips it into place. And then just like that, this is the outside, so we want to rotate it around at the thigh, like that. And you can see the little turbine in the engine there on the back of the foot. And then same for this leg. Just bring this down, open this up, bring it down and around. I find it helps if you go ahead and clip that in first. But then bring this in, bring it down, like that. And clip it onto the, up there into the kneecap. Or actually, and then prop this down and around. Actually, you do want it open, a little open here. Spin it around. And slide it back up into there. And tap it all together. Bring the foot up, rotate the foot around. And then, pop that tab out. And then rotate it around at the thigh. Like that. And there's the waist. And then once those are done, because you want to get it so you see this detail up here on the waist, and then rotate it right above that detail, rotate it around like this. And then this whole assembly right here, untabs here. This little hinge comes out, you can see there's a rotating joint in there. Rotate the waist around like this, and then you bring it down and around on this hinge, and this little tabs into the chest right up here. And tab that in, and there he is standing up. Nope, here we go. With his body, let me bring the camera up just a smidge. And then up here, I'll lift the arms up out of the way here and kind of rotate them up and around like this. And then the cockpit panels, untab, and then you want to pull this side piece right here out. So it's this thing on a hinge, and you fold this hinge in, down underneath, and then continue to pull this out to the side. And once you get it all the way out, this piece folds all the way back in, and then this panel folds back up to fill in that side piece. And then there's a dual hinge up in here. You just bring this back, and then there's a little tab inside here that you just tab the side of the cockpit onto like that. And then just fold that down like that. And same on this side. Bring this piece out. Bring it just a little bit further to get the clearance to get this all the way down. Then fold it into the chest. And then pull this whole assembly back. And tab it right there onto the chest like that. There's his body. Go ahead and bring his arm down like this and swivel it down. And then on the arm, there's a joint here in the bomb that slides. So I don't have to wiggle it, but there's a little kind of T-joint in there that slides all the way back up into the back part of the bomb. There we go, like that. Tab that back together. And same on this side, just kind of wiggle it back up like that. And then you can rotate his arms here and then open up his claws. Come here, you. There we go. Open up the claws and slide them forward in these tracks. He's got little posable claws there. Come on. And then same over here. And then these pieces, as I mentioned, plug into his back, just like that, just like that. And then his head, just push from the back, flip it up and around, and there is LUGNUT in robot mode. He's pretty hefty. He's not super heavy, but I mean, like, for a 3D printed thing, he's got some weight to him. He's a really nice looking LUGNUT. And just again, just for quick size comparison with his previous versions that we showed already. Here he is with his original animated self. You can see a little smaller, but he has just more of a heftiness to him because he doesn't have these skinny little legs and feet. Like, he's not entirely torso. He's got good chunky lower body. He's got big beefy hands and shoulders and such. And I like the way the shoulders collapse in. And here he is with the other, again, I can't remember, it was Hunt for the Decepticons? That's what it was, Hunt for the Decepticons. United was the Japanese version. But there he is with some other LUGNUTs. Now, I know Sam said he designed him to fit in with the Iron Factory line, to be roughly the same size as like some of the bigger DJD members that they've put out. So in that vein, I did get out I didn't get out any of the DJD members, but there is Iron Factory Megatron and Iron Factory Starscream. And I think both design cue-wise and size, I think he looks pretty well and fits in pretty well with Iron Factory figures. Now, if you watch any of my video reviews, you know how much I love Iron Factory stuff. So that's just an extra bonus point in this guy's favor. Like, I really like him. It was a great experience to print this and to have one. I've been wanting this guy on my shelf for months now, and to finally have done it and to do it myself was a lot of fun. Like, all credit goes to Sam for his fantastic design. The files, like I said, he gave me the files to test them to make sure they printed okay, and you can see clearly they do. So he will have the files available for sale soon, and once they are available for sale, if you follow me on Twitter, I will make sure that everybody there knows. I'll put a link to the video once they are live. I'll put a link in the description as well. And if you follow Sam on Twitter, it's Sam_makes_toys on Twitter. You'll be able to see when he posts them as well. But yeah, real quick, we'll do a real quick rundown of his posability. So you saw we already know the waist swivel. Oh, not that waist swivel. Underneath here, the waist swivel. He's got the ball joint at the hips. I got to put that tab back on. Hinged knees. He's got a ball joint at the toe and a ball joint inside here at the ankle. He's got hinged elbows, both upper and lower. He does have a bicep swivel here on these elbows, which is nice. Obviously, you got the joint here, and that one, these things are so heavy that I could print those with a little less infill, and they'd be a little lighter, but that's a joint I'm still working on tightening. But he's got a hinge here. He's got a rotational hinge right there. You saw the wrist swivel already. He's got the posable fingers. We already went over that tab also. I think needs a little bit more thickening, or I just need to push it in a little further. But yeah, so he's got all of that in both arms. He's got the cool little fins on the bomb, but he also even has, like, this piece is the rotational piece, but there's even a pin that comes up through the head. So he even has a side-to-side head turn inside of that shell, which is nice. But yeah, all in all, just a fantastic design. I've had, like I said, I've had a few late nights, but I've had a wonderful time just printing this thing and seeing it come to life. And I'm looking forward to the files being released so that everybody else can have access to have your own LUGNUT. He's just so well designed. Like, I would love for Iron Factory to be like, hey, we really dig that. How about we mass produce it? Because it's fantastic. This is a great little LUGNUT, and I'm super stoked to have it on the shelf. I've had a couple people ask, how much do I want to print and assemble one for them? And I'm not doing that right now. Part of that is because there's a lot of different reasons. One, I've been printing this in bits and pieces for a few weeks, partly just because of the time on the printer. I don't have as much time on the printer right now because it's in our office, which currently is a classroom during the day. So I can't have it running all day. So I don't have the time to print one all the time. This has been printed a lot. I've had a lot of late nights and long weekends printing all the pieces. So, and two, like I said, it's 3D printed. And as cool as that is, I don't know that I have the aftermarket care level because it's 3D printed. Things are gonna, there's always going to be some little imperfections and things like that. And I just don't have time to like follow up and reprint pieces for everybody who may want something, or maybe get an imperfect one. Like I just feel like I would be letting people down if I didn't ship them an absolutely perfect, as best as I can make it figure. And that's a lot more work than just even what I did on this. Like there's a few parts on this that I may go back and reprint just to get a little better version of, because that's just the nature of 3D printing. That is also the benefit of 3D printing is, you know, if I drop him and this fin breaks off or something goes wrong, or I'm like, yeah, that part, like, I didn't print that in the right orientation and it wasn't as strong. And I've actually had to do this a couple times already where like one of the places where I stuck a pin through snapped because I printed it wrong and it just wasn't reinforced as well as it could have been. Resliced it, printed out a new part, was ready to go again in an hour. So that is cool. Like if anything pops off or I lose anything, it's literally just a matter of popping on the 3D printer and firing off a new part. You don't have to go buy a new figure. You don't have to deal with any customer service. Just boom, I replaced the part I needed. So that's cool. Also, but one of the other reasons that I'm not printing it right now is because Sam designed this. Like I did print this, I did assemble this. I put a lot of time and work into printing and assembling this, but like this is not my design. Sam sells his files. I feel like he should be the one to profit off of this, and maybe I can eventually work out, if I have some time and desire to print things for people, work out some deal where he gets a cut of that. But I don't feel comfortable taking money or profiting in any way off of somebody else's hard work, especially when he's actively selling the files and trying to profit off of his own work is kind of how I feel about it. And I don't know if maybe we work out in the future some deal where like, I'll print it for you, but you have to buy the files from Sam yourself, even if I use the ones that I've already sliced, just to make, or I charge cost and a small fee for assembling it and give part of that cut to him. I don't know how it's going to work. I just feel like for me to just start doing it without any sort of compensation to the person who actually put all the real work into creating this thing, it just doesn't sit right with me. So not to say that I won't make it available at some point or work out some deal where I can make them for people. It's just not something I feasibly can do right now. I still have a day job. I still have a lot of other things going on that are taking priority for me. And like I said, this would take up a lot of my print time as well as my free time putting it together. And I'm just not quite at a point where I feel like doing that right now. It's nothing personal if I tell you no, just FYI. But anyway, there is the 3D printed lug nut from Sam's Forge. It's very cool, and I love him. I love him dearly. He's going to go everywhere with me. He's just such a cool lug nut. And yeah, and like I said, the files will be, if you have a 3D printer, the files will be available for sale soon, if they aren't already. And like I said, I will do my best to find ways to help you get one of these if you want one. I'm not printing and selling them for people yet. Because like I said, I've pontificated about that long enough. LUGNUT, he's awesome. He's cool. Super stoked to have him. I'll do just a quick turnaround of the figure so you can see how that backpack works. Oh yeah, also, I mentioned everything is a single, every individual color is a different 3D printed piece. The vents on the back of this thing, I don't know if you can see in here, but there's like this little vent piece on the back of this arm. And inside of that, there's actually red in between those vents. It's a 3D, like there's just a solid red square that you print and push into that first, and then you print this black vent and put it over it so you can see these red stripes in here. Let me see if I can capture it on camera. It just doesn't look like the light's going to cooperate with me here to catch it, but yeah, you can kind of see it. But there's red in there underneath that vent. Just some really fantastic detail that goes into this, and I love that it's all the various colors are individual pieces to print. Now, every single one of these windows, you don't have to print those. Like the detail is in the piece underneath it. You could paint those if you don't want to buy every color of filament, because like I said, the yellow and the red, that's all the red on there, and that and the plate inside there. And the yellow is just these stripes on his arms. And filament, good filament can be expensive depending on it. You could print all of this in gray and hand paint it yourself. He's not in focus, and I just realized that as I rant. But yeah, you could print it all in one color, and because I don't think you would even use a whole kilogram of filament. If you had just a roll of filament, you could print it all in one color and paint it yourself. That's also an option. But I love that it's designed in such a way that I don't have to worry about paint chipping. You know, like everything in here is a solid color. There's nothing to rub off. There's nothing to, I mean, I guess you could conceivably maybe rub off a window, but they're all recessed, so who knows. But nothing's going to fade. There's no paint chipping because it's all colored plastic. Anyway, I really can't speak enough about how much I love this figure. I'm super stoked to have it. And it's really cool. But there is Iron Factory-esque Lugnut from Sam Makes Toys.